On February 5th, 1971, Apollo 14's lunar module, Antares, was circling the moon before its descent to Fra Mauro. Its primary guidance computer had already received the same command 4 separate times: abort. Nobody aboard Antares had called for an abort. Yet, if that command appeared after the descent program began, the computer could respond as it was designed to respond to an abort command. That is the real story behind the phrase that the lunar module wanted to cancel the landing. It did not want anything. A false signal was reaching a machine built to take that signal seriously. And before the crew could begin powered descent, people on Earth and in lunar orbit had to decide whether they could safely make the computer disregard it. The record is unusually clear about the chain. It preserves the false abort input, the switch circuit where it was traced, the rapid development and verification of a temporary procedure, and the crew's manual entry before descent. It also leaves one small but important boundary. The exact physical defect inside the switch was never proved beyond doubt. That boundary matters. The popular version of this incident can turn into a tiny piece of hardware with a mind of its own, or into a lone programmer performing a miracle. The actual case is better than either version. It is about a warning system that was doing precisely what it had been built to do, except that, on this occasion, the warning reaching it was false. For Apollo, an abort was not a casual word. A lunar landing was a tightly choreographed descent toward an uneven surface, with a separate ascent stage waiting below the crew. The spacecraft had to know the difference between a command that meant stop and one that was only noise from a bad connection. In the right moment, an abort input was supposed to matter immediately. That was the point of having it. But a safeguard is only as good as the evidence it receives. A fire alarm should be loud when there is fire. A medical warning should be taken seriously when the measurement is real. The dangerous cases are not the ones where a protection system fails silently. They are the ones where it works perfectly on bad information. Antares had not yet started powered descent when the problem showed itself. The post-flight report says the primary guidance computer received the abort command 4 different times before descent. That detail is the hinge of the whole episode. This was not a landing already being aborted over the lunar surface. It was a recurring command before the critical phase, a signal that could not simply be assumed harmless because it had appeared at the wrong time. NASA's account of the incident is careful about the conditional risk. If the descent program had been initiated while the false command was present, the computer would have reacted to it as an abort command. Not might have become confused. Not might have displayed a curious light. It could have initiated an unwanted abort during descent. Look at the contradiction from the crew's side. They were preparing to leave lunar orbit and commit to the landing. The computer was seeing an instruction to do the opposite. It did not know that the instruction was false. It only knew that the abort circuit had supplied it. The mission report includes a diagram titled abort-switch logic. It is the kind of archival page that can look dry until you understand what it is holding. Lines, contacts, and logic paths reduce an enormous decision to a physical route through a circuit. Somewhere along that route, a false condition had become an instruction inside the guidance computer. The investigation narrowed the failure to one set of contacts in the abort switch. The report also records a strangely simple observation. Tapping or recycling the switch cleared the signal from the computer. That did not solve the problem. An intermittent fault that clears when you touch a panel is not a fault you can trust to stay gone when the landing sequence begins. It did, however, change the question. The problem was no longer an imagined rebellion by a spacecraft. It was a particular path by which a false abort input could recur. The hardware had left a trace. The crew and ground teams now had to decide what that trace allowed them to do. That sounds like a small distinction until you picture the alternative. If the team had treated the signal as nothing because it was inconvenient, they would have been trusting hope over the system's own evidence. If they had treated it as an unquestionable command, they could have surrendered the landing opportunity to a condition they had reason to believe was false. The work in between those two bad choices is where the mission becomes human. Antares was in lunar orbit, and the operational evidence was the behavior of the input, the contact finding, the way the signal cleared when the switch was tapped or recycled, the computer logic, and the time remaining before descent. That is not an incomplete story. It is the actual limit within which the decision had to be made. The word abort can make this episode sound as though it was a single dramatic button waiting to be pressed. The evidence is more exact. A false command reached the primary guidance computer through the abort-switch circuit. The computer did not have to possess a belief, a fear, or a bad intention for the danger to be real. It only had to receive an input whose meaning, in the descent program, carried operational force. That is why the switch diagram belongs near the center of the story. It turns a vague claim about a computer malfunctioning into a visible chain of cause and effect. A contact can carry a false condition. A logic path can pass it on. A guidance computer can respond according to the rule it was given. Each part is ordinary. The risk came from their combination at the worst possible phase of the mission. The air-to-ground record brings the episode close without needing to invent a control room drama around it. Houston had the crew examine and reset the abort indication. The indication was discussed, the panel was tapped, and later a changed procedure was briefed across the communications loop. These are not reconstructed emotions. They are documented actions, a bit that had to be checked, a circuit that had to be treated as unreliable, and a descent that could not wait for a perfect answer from a faulty switch. This is where the pressure becomes easier to see. The safest looking response to an abort command is to honor it, but honoring a known false command would have risked the landing attempt. Ignoring every abort command would have been a very different and much larger claim than the record supports. What the team needed was a narrow answer to a narrow problem, a way to handle this false input during the phase in which it could matter most. That narrowness is easy to miss in later retellings. They reprogram the computer has the scale of a legend. It makes the episode sound as though a complete new system had to be invented and loaded into a spacecraft at the moon. The official record supports something more bounded and more credible. A program aimed at this abort command problem, developed and verified before descent, then manually inserted into the lunar module computer. The difference is not a matter of taking drama away. It tells us what the real risk was. A total rewrite would suggest that the guidance computer could not be trusted. The evidence says something subtler. The computer could be trusted to follow its logic. The question was whether, for this one false input during powered descent, that logic needed a temporary exception. NASA and software experts at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology worked on that answer. The mission report says a computer program was developed and verified within 2 hours. That sentence is almost understated. It does not give us a screenplay of who said what, or a tally of keystrokes, or permission to name one person as the savior of Apollo 14. It gives us something more useful. The work was real, it was checked, and it had to be ready before powered descent. Verification is the word that keeps this from becoming a story about cleverness alone. A proposed workaround is not yet an operational answer. It has to be tested against the behavior it is meant to change. The record says the program was developed and verified. That is why the later manual entry is not presented as an improvised guess made in the middle of an emergency. It was a limited procedure prepared for a known false input before the descent began. The communications record then shows what a solution looks like when it has to cross an immense physical distance. A procedure is briefed in Houston. It is passed over the radio to a lunar module. It is read back by the crew. No one needs a fictional exchange to feel the weight of that sequence. A phrase misunderstood on the loop, an entry not made as planned, or a response altered without verification would have changed the meaning of the whole workaround. That is the scene where the story stops being a diagram and becomes a mission. Antares is still in lunar orbit. Mission control is still on the other end of the communications loop. The crew is not receiving a grand theory of the failure. They are receiving a procedure that has to be entered before they are cleared to begin powered descent. The document does not report private fear. It reports the actions that made fear unnecessary to invent. The distinction between developing a program and rewriting a spacecraft is not a technicality. Antares was not given a new identity in lunar orbit. No one replaced its entire flight software. The documented solution was temporary and specific. Its purpose was tied to the false abort command that had become dangerous precisely because the rest of the system was treating it as genuine. Before the workaround could carry any meaning, the hardware explanation had to be tested against the record. The fault had been isolated to abort-switch contacts. The post-flight report considered metallic contamination inside the hermetically sealed switch module the most probable cause. That is as far as the strongest official explanation goes. It does not identify a recovered little villain inside Antares. There is no proven solder ball to place at the center of the story. The report weighs metallic contamination as the most likely cause. It does not settle the precise particle or the exact internal mechanism forever. The uncertainty is narrow. It does not erase the 4 false commands, the contact finding, or the workaround. It tells us where the evidence stops. That is a useful kind of uncertainty. It prevents the false certainty of saying that one named speck inside a switch nearly ended Apollo 14's landing. But it does not force the rest of the story into doubt. The contact behavior was documented. The abort command was documented. The operational consequence, if it recurred during descent, was documented. The temporary program was documented. A careful account can be precise about all of that without pretending to possess the missing particle. In fact, the missing detail makes the operational choice more legible. The mission did not need to solve a tiny forensic puzzle in order to understand the immediate system-level problem. It needed to know whether the input was reliable enough to control the next phase of flight. The evidence said no. That is the threshold the workaround was built to address. There is a difference between explaining why a failure happened and deciding what must be done while it is happening. The post-flight report could later weigh metallic contamination. Before descent, the people on the mission had to work with the recurring indication itself. They had to prepare for the possibility that the switch could offer the same false command again at exactly the moment when the computer would give it the most consequential interpretation. And that is why the workaround was not an act of blind faith. The team did not have to prove the chemical history of a tiny contamination before acting. They had to establish what the computer was receiving, what it would do with that input during descent, and whether a limited change could prevent a false command from producing a real operational consequence. The program was developed and verified within 2 hours. Then it was manually inserted into the lunar module computer before powered descent initiation. Its documented purpose was to make the computer ignore an abort command during powered descent. Read that again for what it means. The people responsible for getting Antares to the moon had to instruct its computer not to believe a command that normally existed to protect the mission. Not because abort logic was foolish, not because the crew had decided to gamble with the landing, because the evidence showed that this particular abort input was lying. That is the turn in the story. The false signal first looks like a threat from inside the machine. The deeper danger is the opposite. A reasonable safety response can become the threat when the signal feeding it is false. The task was not to overpower a rebellious computer. It was to limit the reach of a valid rule in the one circumstance where following it would have meant obeying bad evidence. The solution still had to travel. NASA's later account describes the modifications being sent to the crew, and the communications record documents the changed procedure being briefed. Edgar Mitchell entered the transmitted changes before the crew received the go for powered descent. The record includes his readbacks of the entries. That is the scene to hold on to. Not an imagined flash of genius, but a chain of people making a limited procedure legible enough to cross the distance from Earth to a computer in lunar orbit. Nothing about that chain was automatic. Ground teams had to make the procedure. It had to be verified. It had to be communicated. The crew had to enter it correctly. Each link existed because a single indication in the abort circuit could not be allowed to decide the landing on its own. There is a temptation to inflate this moment into an all-or-nothing choice between safety and success. The sources do not support that. The temporary program did not turn Apollo 14 into a machine without limits, and the report does not invite us to pretend that every abort protection had been erased. Its documented job was more exact. During powered descent, the computer would ignore the abort command that the team had identified as false. Exactness is what makes the story tense. A broad change would be frightening because it would be hard to understand. A narrow change is frightening in another way. It asks whether the people making it have understood the boundary correctly. They were not trying to make the landing look braver. They were trying to prevent an intermittent hardware fault from turning a protective command into the wrong decision. For the viewer, that is the part worth lingering on. The hard judgment is not deciding that every rule is optional. It is recognizing when a rule has been handed false evidence, then changing no more than the evidence requires. The temporary program was not a celebration of ignoring warnings. It was a disciplined response to one warning whose path through the switch circuit had stopped being trustworthy. The same fact now carries a different meaning from the one it had in the opening. 4 abort commands were not 4 signs that the vehicle was turning against the landing. They were 4 pieces of evidence that the abort system could no longer be allowed to decide this part of the descent by itself. The false command was the problem. The decision to restrain its effect was the solution. By the time Antares was cleared to begin powered descent, the false abort chain had been met with a procedure, not a myth. The mission timeline records powered descent initiation. Antares went on to land at Fra Mauro on February 5th. Apollo 14 returned to Earth on February 9th. The landing does not prove that every risk vanished. It proves the specific operational story reached its documented outcome. The computer had received false abort commands before descent. A program had been developed and verified. The crew had manually entered it. The mission proceeded to the landing it had been in danger of losing to a false input. That difference can sound abstract until you return to the mission report's diagram. Figure 14-17 is not an image of panic. It is a map of logic, a switch, contacts, routes, and an abort path. On one page, a system intended to stop a descent is represented by a few carefully drawn lines. For most of the mission, those lines were a protection. On February 5th, they carried a false instruction 4 times before descent. The engineers and crew did not make the lines disappear. They found a temporary, verified way to keep that false instruction from deciding the next phase of the mission. The exact contaminant inside the sealed switch module remains a smaller, unanswered detail. Metallic contamination was judged most probable, but the record does not let us identify the particle with certainty. That is not a cosmic secret. It is the honest edge of a solved operational problem. What remains on the page is quieter than the myth of a spacecraft that wanted to quit. A safeguard had received a lie. People had enough evidence to recognize it, enough discipline to change only what the record required, and one narrow interval before descent to make that judgment hold.